This is the On Cloudsurfer, and it pushes the boundaries of what an On shoe is. And for me, that's exactly what this brand needs. Yo, what's going on everybody? My name is Kofuzi and I'm a non-elite runner who reviews shoes here on YouTube. And today I'm taking a look at the On Cloudsurfer. It's a brand new shoe from On that I'm really excited to tell you about. But first, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that On sent me for the purpose of review, so I didn't have to pay for these shoes. However, they're not paying me to make this video or to use this shoe, and they're not going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the On Cloudsurfer. First, let's go over some specs on this shoe. This is a brand new design from On. On has always been known for the clouds, or kind of like the bubbles that are in their shoes. And this year they've changed the shape of the bubbles. Now, they've been tinkering around with the shapes of the bubbles for a long time. I think probably from the beginning. But this is the first time they're using something called finite element analysis to take an even more technical look at how these bubbles, or clouds is what they call them, are supposed to compress and then decompress in order to give you the desired experience. Now, if you're familiar with On shoes before, you've seen that some of them are bigger or smaller in terms of the clouds, but these have kind of like a trapezoidal or a triangular shape, and they are pivoted at different heights and angles depending on where they are in the shoe. And the idea is that as your foot is hitting the ground and rolling through that foot strike, it's going to compress these different clouds differently depending on what you need at different phases of that foot strike. Now, the foam that they're using around these clouds, or to make the clouds, is still their Helion foam. And as far as I know, it's the same formulation of Helion foam. But for me, other than the fact that they've significantly changed with deliberateness the shape of the clouds, which are calling Cloud Tech Phase now, they've also removed something that I've been wanting them to get rid of in On shoes for a really long time. There's no speed board in this shoe. Now, what the speed board was, a rigid layer in between the upper where your foot is sitting and the midsole foam. So it's kind of something that the midsole foam pushed up against, but in terms of what your foot felt the hard speed board. And so they've gotten rid of that, and I think that that is a fantastic choice. I was really excited when I heard about this initially last December at the running event in Austin. Now, moving to the outsole, there is a lot of exposed foam here, but there is also strategically placed rubber up at the forefoot and in the heel to protect those highest tread areas. There's a nice channel that shoots down the middle of this shoe as well to help make sure that the foam compresses in the right way and also rolls forward nicely. Moving to the upper, there's also a lot of changes that push beyond the normal On boundaries here as well. One of the things they try to do is work on the carbon footprint of this shoe. There are minimal plastic overlays that are on this shoe. It's pretty much just this engineered mesh upper, so that reduces some of the use of plastics in the shoe. And they're also using a dyeing process that uses 90% less water, which is something that I'm very happy to see. But going into the actual upper itself, in terms of what is in here, you've got a pretty puffy tongue for the kind of shoe that this is. And then you have a lot of padding here in the heel cup. Probably the most padding that I've seen in any On running shoe, at least that I've come across. So really nice and puffy, makes it feel very comfortable to slip your foot inside, but also is gonna make sure that it's more accommodating to a wide variety of heel shapes. And it's less rigid of a heel cup than I typically see in On running shoes as well. So there's a lot less kind of plastic stuff that's in the shoe, but a lot more puffy foam padding. Altogether, this shoe comes at a respectable weight of 245 grams and 8.6 ounces. Now that we've talked about what it's like on paper, let's take it out onto the roads and see what it was like to run in it. Overall, I'm gonna say that the On Cloudsurfer is the best On running shoe that I've ever run in. Now, the problem is I've also said that the last 4 times, but I've ultimately never ended up like loving an On shoe. I think probably the closest was the On Cloud Stratus. I felt like that one with the double clouds was actually a pretty nice shoe, but that shoe to me is not nearly as enjoyable as the Cloudsurfer has been so far. I feel like there's a really nice softness to this shoe, and I think that like the best thing that I can say about this is that I don't really feel like I'm running on clouds. I don't feel like there's like technology or gimmicks or stuff that's in here. I just feel like this is a nice cushioned shoe that's very comfortable to wear. Now, I will say that it's not the springiest of shoes, so it's not going to be a shoe that I'm going to be taking out for workouts anytime soon, but it rolls really nicely. It's very comfortable underfoot, and it makes for some really nice set it and forget it type of runs where you can just put the shoe on and head out there and you just enjoy the run for what it is, and you're not thinking about what's on your feet. I feel like that's one of the highest compliments that I could give to a shoe in this category of kind of like daily trainers, shoes that I'm going to put on for a bulk of my weekly mileage. And also, it's really comfortable for casual wear because of the fact that it's just much less structured in the upper than I typically experience with On running shoes. And this is where I kind of feel like I got what I'm asking for, and now I'm not sure that I like it, because there's kind of like it's not loose, it's snug where it needs to be snug, and it fits where it needs to fit, but it doesn't feel like an On anymore. It feels a little bit more like a Hoka than it feels like an On. And I'm a little bit conflicted because I'm not sure if that's great or if that's bad. I mean, overall, the upper is very comfy, but it lacks a little bit of the precision that I've come to know. And now I'm realizing that I've come to appreciate from On. I'm not sure if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Let's try and summarize. Overall, I think the On Cloudsurfer is gonna be best for comfy, easy miles and for everyday wear. Now, in terms of shoes that you can pair it with, I think this is one of those shoes that can be an easy day shoe, can be a max cushion shoe. So I'm not gonna try and pair it with anything in those categories. Instead, I'm gonna give you two different racing options that both I think are going to be good complements to what the On Cloudsurfer is providing. The first one that I'm talking about is going to be the Adidas Adios Pro 3. This is a really fun shoe to be able to run in, and I feel like it has some of the kind of like Euro styling that is a little bit more like traditional On, or at least similar to what people might be used to from On. The fit is very tailored and it's very kind of like mathematically created, especially when you look at like the outsole and some of the way that there's wedges and slices cut out from this shoe. I feel like it's going to pair up nicely with the finite element analysis design Cloud Tech phase that is in the On Cloudsurfer. I think the other shoe that you could look at as a potential complement to the On Cloudsurfer is going to be the Endorphin Pro 3. This has kind of been a shoe that I find myself recommending over and over and over again. The upper has that level of precision that I love in my racing shoes. And as far as super foams go, this one is a little bit on the softer side. So if you're liking an On shoe that's a little bit on the softer side, I think these two shoes can go well together. Now let's talk about the buying guide. The On Cloudsurfer is a brand new version of this shoe. I know there's previous version of those shoe, but they're very different. So I'm going to say that this one, if you're looking to get it, you're going to get it at that full price of $160, which does feel like a lot. I don't love the $160 price point. I feel like there's a lot of shoes in the last year or two that have come out at that price point, and I'm not always loving it, but let's look at some of the competition and see where that 160 stacks up. I think one shoe that is really similar to the On Cloudsurfer is going to be the 1080 version 12 from New Balance. I feel like this shoe is a little less soft, but a little bit more speedy, a little bit more peppy. But I feel like these two shoes are kind of in that similar range of like, they're not exactly daily trainers, but they're not exactly max cushion shoes either. They're more like plush daily or speedy max, kind of in between. And I think these two shoes kind of line up head to head really nicely. And this shoe is also 160, so maybe that 160 price point isn't so bad. The other shoe that I think that the On Cloudsurfer definitely is targeting is going to be the Hoka Clifton 9. I feel like these two shoes, I mean, like just from the color work here that I've got for the launch colors for each of these shoes, I feel like obviously there's some similar demographics that they're going after. And I also feel like in terms of shoes that can be worn in everyday life and also for casual wear, I feel like On and Hoka are really battling it out on the streets these days. So I feel like these two shoes definitely are ones that should be considered at the same time. And I feel like the On Cloudsurfer is a little bit softer and the Clifton 9 is a little bit lighter and peppier this year. So there's some slight differences between the two, but these are two shoes that usually should be considered at the same time. The Clifton 9 comes in at $145, which is a price point that I think is a little bit high from someone that's been running in the Clifton for several years, but this is a very different Clifton this year. And also it's much cheaper than the 160. So, I mean, this is the range that you're looking for in this caliber of shoe from 145 to 160. And those are 3 different options that I think that you could be interested in if you're looking for this type of cushioned daily trainer. So those are my thoughts on the Cloudsurfer. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other questions, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do over on the Kofuzi Run Club channel, link in the description down below. I'd love to talk to you guys in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?